I'd say one of the most frustrating things anybody could ever go through in their life is feeling like they're on this endless side quest, and that they'll jump into a project, they'll jump into a business, they'll jump into maybe a relationship with somebody, whether platonic or romantic, and they say to themselves, this is the one, this is it, this is my main mission. And you'll go 1, 2, 3, maybe even 5 years down the line, and something sour, something turns, something doesn't work. And we invest so much time into those relationships or into those projects or into those ideas, and it's so bitterly painful when those things fall apart. And I know in the past, for a long time in my life, I've started a lot of things and I've failed a lot of times. And it consistently made me wonder if I would ever get to the main mission. I remember when I was 20 and I was living in China, I was thinking to myself, I'm ready to start the main mission now. I want to do the main mission right now. And when I went out into the world, things would just fall flat in my face, year after year after year after year. And I started to wonder if I was actually meant to do anything worthwhile in my life. I started to wonder if anything I started would work. And it really upset me, actually. I got to a point where I felt unsafe in my body. I was really upset. Like, I had a very inflamed nervous system, and I was constantly on edge, and I was constantly stressed out because I felt like I was working so hard to do something that was meaningful or my main mission, and it would just fall on my face. And year went by, I was in my mid-20s, I was in my late 20s, and I started to look at myself in the mirror and I started to ask, Don, are you actually going to make something of your life? Actually going to do something? Or are you just going to spend your years training martial arts or speaking to your mentors or working with people online? Is this it? Is this the pinnacle of what you're supposed to do? And it felt like I was, like, part of me knew that I was meant to play something bigger, but I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to turn. And I was in this weird amorphous state of, I know I'm meant for so much more, but I'm scared to do so much more. So I want to get in this comfort zone of, I feel like I'm thriving here, but I'm creating this glass ceiling. And it was this weird dichotomy of, I felt like I was thriving, but I knew I could have done more. And I felt like I was happy, but I knew I was on my side quest. And it created this really weird dissonance in my body where, on a deep level, I felt like I was underselling myself. And it gave me nightmares, honestly. It gave me a lot of nightmares. And it made me uncomfortable. It made me feel unsafe. It made me feel like I couldn't relax. And I never realized that I was so stressed. I never realized I was so worried about my life, because on a subconscious level, I knew that I wasn't really on my main mission, even though I kept telling myself that I'm on my main mission. And I look at a lot of my peers that I was friends with when I was in my early 20s or even mid-20s, and a lot of them are still in the same dead-end job. They're still dating the same woman that they like. Well, I mean, they like them, so that's good. I'm happy for them. But they're literally playing the same day every single day, and I can see the senescence in their face. I can see them dying fast. They got their foot to the gas pedal, and they are dying really fast because they're in this soul-sucking job. They're in this soul-sucking land. They're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I can see that they've sort of given away their soul to the system. And it's become so impossible for me to relate to a lot of people in the United States because I've lived such a different life. But at the same time, what feels like a lot of those people have started on their journey a lot faster than I have. I needed at least 10 years of my life to completely unlearn everything. Because in our lives, we've been conditioned, we need to think this specific way, we need to act this specific way, we need to do this specific thing, we need to be this specific way in order to be successful. And then when you look at the most successful, fulfilled, and happy people in the world, they do the complete opposite of that. And I knew that from a very young age, but I didn't know where to go. So I took a step on the journey that was anything other than what people told me to do. And it was not easy. Like there were times where I was so broke for a long time, and I was like, I guess I'll eat rice. I guess I'll not be able to sleep. I guess I'll like take odd jobs to pay my bills. And to anybody on the outside, they'd think, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Like, get your life together. Like, what's wrong with you, dude? And what I realized was that process was the alchemical process. It was taking the sludge, it was taking the goop, it was dragging myself in the dirt and looking at myself through the shit that I was going through and asking myself, can I get through this? Can you deal with difficult things? Can you slog through the difficult times for a long period of time and know that you have the strength and the resolve to overcome those things? So when you're actually ready for your mission, when you're actually ready for the big boy moves, then it feels like a cakewalk. And I kept asking him, like, give me the big mission, give me the main mission, give me the main mission. But I felt like I wasn't doing that, and it was stressing me out. So what did I do? I doubled down on service. I doubled down on my craft. I doubled down on learning. I doubled down on anything I can do internally to better myself through meditation, through healing, through fasting, through prayer, through just emotional release, because it was very emotionally taxing. And even when I started my charity, I felt like this is the pinnacle. This is it. I'm traveling the world. I'm meeting all these cool people. I'm making lots of money. But recently I've been presented with another opportunity to scale a wellness company on an even grander scale than I could have even imagined. And I think to myself, oh, is this another pattern of me just doing another infinite side quest and never actually getting to my main mission? But now that I'm stepping into this leadership role to look at globally scaling this brand and creating this from the ground up, I look back on all of the difficult experiences I've had, on all the challenges I've had, on all the times where I was so damn pissed that things weren't working. And now I'm looking at the trajectory and where I'm going. And even though it's a really, really big project or a business that we're doing that's going to have multiple locations and managing international teams of people all over the world, it feels like it's easy. Because I've learned through the difficult times, I've learned through the difficult process, I've learned how to chill out in the face of a lot of pressure and a lot of difficulty. And so I'm looking at this business that I'm doing, and my new business partners, they're saying, I can see their visible stress, but to me, I'm like, it's always gonna work out. It always does work out. And I realized that I had to learn how to max out my character stats in the infinite side quests in order to face the main mission. If you play one of these MMORPGs, these massive multiplayer online role-playing games, and you go to face the boss, and you don't have your stats maxed out, you're gonna get slaughtered, man. So if you are getting in your late 20s or even in your early 30s or maybe even in your late 30s and early 40s, and you're still stats maxing, don't worry, because the more you max your stats, the better you get at managing teams and your emotions and your sales and your marketing and reading the trends and doing all of these things to improve yourself, the easier your main mission is actually going to be. So when you finally get your main mission, you're gonna be like, oh, this is really easy. And you'll be really glad you went through all those trials, because if you hadn't unlearned a lot of those things early on in your life, your main mission is gonna be a lot more difficult. And one of the biggest things that I learned, that was so helpful for me, is that it doesn't have to be so hard. Your main mission doesn't have to be so challenging. Your main mission doesn't have to be so frustrating and causing you so much stress and sleepless nights and fear, that actually when you've maxed your stats out, your main mission is actually really simple and really easy. And if I didn't learn that, I would probably be really, really stressed during my main mission. And so just keep in mind that maybe during this time of learning that you're actually going to need to learn how to chill in your nervous system, to be able to learn how to relax, to be able to learn how to have fun, to be able to learn how to delegate, to be able to learn how to think on higher levels of abstraction so that you can pull that one string that makes all the difference and sit back and watch all the pieces fall into place. I've learned through being around executives and through being around very high performance people, they only focus on one really big thing that's at such a higher plane of causality that when they actually pull that one string, everything works. And they don't get paid to be the grunt man. They don't get paid to work hard, although they do work hard. What they really get paid for is the depth of vision that they have and their ability to know exactly the right button to push, the right string to pull, the right person to hire, the right phone call to make everything work. It's getting paid to be the magician. It's getting paid to be the master of the game, to see the whole game for what it is and not get so granular and not get so bogged down in the minutia that won't actually move the needle where you want to go. It's about seeing the whole landscape and knowing exactly when to strike and chilling out and having fun for the rest of the time. It's a completely different way of thinking about life. It's a completely different way about thinking about business, because the old model says we have to grind to the bone and white knuckle our way through life. And I say that's bunk. Because in the charity I was running earlier, I had so much fun. I was traveling around the world with my friends and calling people and telling them about how much I love them and learning new things and having fun. And we were still making money and still helping people. And I'm like, this is the new way of running businesses. This is the new way of how life should be ran. Because we put so much focus and fixation on the value that you provide or the work that you put in, we somehow deify workaholism. We lose the sight of what life is actually meant to be. And that could mean many things to many different people, but to me, life is about inner mastery. And the most masterful people that I've ever met in my life, the truly embodied people that are thriving in their life, are so still, and they're so calm, and they're so present, and they're so open-hearted. And they know exactly the right thing to say and when, at precisely the right time, precisely the right tone of voice, precisely the right emotional expression with those words, because they're still inside, and they're not working, and they're not grinding, and they're not white-knuckling. They're just still, and they're present with themselves. And the more still and present we can be with ourselves, the easier our life becomes, the more our nervous system relaxes, and the more effective of a leader we can become, finally, on our main mission. So if you still feel like you're on infinite side quest mode, be deliberate about your side quests. You know, you could learn about public speaking, you can learn about writing, you can learn about marketing, you can learn about AI. And that might not feel like that's your main mission, but consider the most exciting thing that you could possibly do. When you think about the thing that lights your jets and gets you really excited, think about what skills or people you would want to be around or things that you would want to learn that would actually make that main mission easier for you. And then go on those side quests to figure out how to max your stats out. And then your main mission is going to be a lot easier. So have no fear, guys. If you feel like you're still on your side quest, don't worry. Most guys don't even really reach their stride until they get into their mid-30s. And if you're taking care of yourself and you're consistently working every day, no matter what it is, no matter how small it is, no matter even if it feels like it's not on your main mission, but on your side quest, just know that eventually, if you have the depth of vision to know where you're going, to know the ability to serve, to know that you were meant for greater things other than infinite side quests, then eventually it's going to work there. And that opportunity, that situation, that circumstance, that event is going to reveal itself to you at the perfect time. And it will probably feel like it was obvious. It will probably just drop in your lap. There'll probably be this gap period to where one side quest is finally finishing out, and then the main quest shows up. And it'll kind of just be presented into your lap as a very easy and graceful placement, like sort of like you're sitting down and a server places it on your placemat. It's like, all right, you're ready to eat your main course now. And you just whet your appetite with a nice little drink and a nice little hors d'oeuvre. Are you ready for the main quest now? So if you're sick and tired of being on the side quest, just know that by asking and by praying and by hoping and by listening, then eventually the main quest is going to come. And that main quest is going to be a lot bigger, a lot grander, a lot more impactful than you think it's going to be. It's going to say, all right, well, you think that this is your main quest? You're playing small, man. You're playing really small. That's your main quest. And it's probably going to feel overwhelmingly big. It's probably going to feel too big. It's probably going to feel too scary. You're probably going to ask yourself, am I even qualified to do this? Am I even qualified to run this business? Am I even capable of managing such a large project? And that's where things get exciting, because at that level of inner work, you realize that it never was you in the first place. You never really were actually pulling the strings. You never really were doing the work. It was always being done through you. And when I learned that everything was being done through me via a higher power, I was able to soften, and I was able to relax, and I was able to not worry so much, because I knew that I was being carried. And every time I stressed out about money, every time I stressed out about where I was going to be in my home, every time I stressed out about relationships, I always knew that I was being looked after. And lo and behold, it always worked out. And it even got better than I expected, which is bonkers to even think about, that my life could even get better. And that's the truth for everybody. Everybody's lives can get better as long as they can conceive of it getting better. Isn't that cool? You could be living in the dream. I'm living in Bali right now. Beautiful place. It's affordable. The people are beautiful. The weather's beautiful. I'm meeting so many incredible, amazing people. And I was living in Ecuador a couple years ago, and I thought I had it made there. But then I come here, I'm like, this is amazing. This is, and I'm open to the idea of it, that it's going to get even better. If I can ask myself the question, can it get better? Then yes, it can. And the higher mind is going to show me how that is. And I don't need to know how it is. I know that it's going to be that. So consider that your main mission is going to be better and bigger and grander and more exciting and more challenging than you can imagine. But that's what makes it all the more beautiful, is that you're going to be carried the whole way through. And that it's not actually going to be so hard for you, because you've maxed out your stats and you get God to do the heavy lifting. So don't worry. It's going to be a lot of fun. Have fun now on your side quest, but know, eventually, soon, your main mission will descend upon you, and it's going to be awesome.